Now, Bob Wall was a US karate champion and martial arts expert and entrepreneur who is best known for getting an almighty beating from Bruce Lee in the iconic film Enter the Dragon.
Mr. Lee, are you ready?
Oh, don't hit back.
O'Hara! O'Hara's treachery has disgraced us.
Bob Wall there played Baddie O'Hara in the film. He was actually good friends with Bruce Lee and also appeared in two of his other films, Way of the Dragon and Game of Death. Here he is speaking about working with Bruce Lee.
We both agreed that making contact didn't leave any doubt about what your reaction was going to be. Because when you get hit for real, there's no fake reaction. And so while Bruce didn't hit you in the nose or break your teeth, but he sure hit you in the side of the head and certainly popped me in the body pretty darn hard. But it made it easier in a way if you could take the pain, but because people see it shot, they see it on screen one time. But you may shoot that scene 8, 9, 10 times. And so you're taking 8, 9, 10 hits, and sometimes 12 or 15, because Bruce was a perfectionist. He wanted it just right.
Bob Wall was a 9th-degree black belt who trained alongside another good friend, action star Chuck Norris. They first met in the 1960s and were business partners in a chain of karate studios. Linda Bustamante Padron, teacher, writer, martial artist, was friends with Bob Wall, and she joins us now. Linda, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you for having me.
I was just watching that iconic fight between Bruce Lee and Bob Wall as the Baddie O'Hara in the film Enter the Dragon. And I mean, listening to him there, he said, you know, Bruce would like to sort of have contact. He wouldn't break your teeth or your nose, but he would give you a bit of contact, even to the side of the head. I mean, he takes an almighty beating in that scene. It must have been physically quite grueling.
Absolutely. Like one of the stories that Bob shared with my father and I had to do with the scene in Enter the Dragon. As Bruce wanted to make the film as realistic as possible, Bob allowed Bruce to hit him with full power, also would allow him to hit him in the groin, which was something that was very appealing to Bruce. And Bruce told him, Bob, I want you to hit me. I want you to hit me hard. Bob proceeded saying, go ahead. So in one of the tournament scenes in Enter the Dragon, Bruce sidekicks Bob and broke his ribs. And to make matters worse, one of the spectators who was holding or supposed to catch Bob from the sidekick that Bruce was hitting him with, he broke his arm. It just showed the power that Bruce had, even going not full force. Gosh. But just to make the movie realistic, that's the pain that Bob endured.
But they were genuinely good friends, Bob and Bruce Lee.
Absolutely. He also told us that he did not work on these projects, all three films, for the money, but for the friendship that he had with Bruce. And he stated that he found that Bruce was the real deal.
What kind of a person was Bob Wall? I know that you and your father spent time with him. You knew him very well.
Yes, we did. I mean, I met him in 2005 at the first annual Festival of Martial Arts at Universal Studio Hollywood. At this festival, I auditioned for a martial arts reality show, and Bob was one of my judges, along with Karen Shepard, David Crepes, Chris Casamassa, and Jean LaBelle. And later that evening, Bob delivered the news I made the top 15 contestants for the show. I mean, having O'Hara from Enter the Dragon take the time to find my father and I to deliver the celebratory news face to face, it just felt so surreal. I felt on top of the world. And at that point, I felt I won the contest, you know, because he sat down with my father and I, discussed my future goals, and proceeded to ask me if I would like to share my martial arts experience on a platform that he and Chuck Norris founded in 2000 called World Black Belt Incorporated. I was 16 years old at the time, so writing for a site the most influential martial artist called Home, my goodness, I was thrilled. And through that site, I was able to meet legendary martial artists like Leo Fong and Art Camacho. And every time we went to California when I was working on a project, we would go visit World Black Belt headquarters in Tarzana. We would have lunch, catch up, and he would just share memorabilia with us. And he was just such a giving man. Like, I know him as an iconic martial artist, successful real estate developer, and devoted family man. You know, he always talked about his family, although I wasn't able to meet his wife, Lillian Wall, who he was married to for 36 years, or his two daughters, Shayna and Kara. Family was everything to him. And I believe that is why we were so close, because we valued the same things in regards to putting family as a priority, being kind and generous.
He must have had some extraordinary stories of the people that he worked with. And of course, it wasn't sort of just straight acting. There was a lot of action and sort of pain being involved.
Yes, well, one of the stories from Enter the Dragon. Another one was about Chuck Norris. Bob Wall was really close to Chuck Norris, like you mentioned in the beginning of the excerpt. Really close friends. Started martial arts chains and was very successful in 1967. And he would just say that how we had a lot in common, how we both grew up in a small town and had big dreams. He would always end the conversation when we were there at World Black Belt. Since I worked with World Black Belt, he wanted us to be able to be in the same event and meet. And although I never had the pleasure of meeting Chuck, I was hopeful to one day meet him and commemorate with Bob Wall and just share stories that he knows that I'm not familiar with. Another story was with Jean LaBelle. In one of our visits, I talked to him about how Jean LaBelle strikingly resembled my paternal grandfather. And in one of the sessions, he's like, "Oh, you want to go meet the grandfather of grappling? You know what? Just stay here. Let me call him up." Before I could even say yes, he's calling Gene on the phone. And next thing I know we're grabbing something to eat and heading to go meet Jean LaBelle. Just an example of the kind-hearted man who always made our visits meaningful and special.
Linda, one last question before we go. What do you make of the sort of almost like a resurgence that you have of martial arts on sort of popular entertainment? Because, of course, I speak of Cobra Kai, hugely successful series on Netflix. I mean, I'm of that generation. I grew up with Ralph Macchio, and Johnny Lawrence and the Karate Kid. And now I'm thoroughly enjoying a bit of martial arts back on the telly. Do you reckon we're heading back to having, I mean, those people, Chuck Norris, Bruce Lee and Bob in those films, they were massive stars.
Yes, yes, for sure. I love that you say that. I'm a huge fan of Cobra Kai as well. And Simon Rhee did the fight scenes for that, choreographed the fight scenes. And, just Jackie Chan, Meals on Wheels fight scenes with Benny the Jet Ortiz, Donnie Yen and Ip Man versus the 10 black belts, Scott Adkins. They are just beacons for martial artists to look at, admire, and they're just continuing the legacy of what Bruce Lee started and what Bob Wall as well continued. And I feel that this is here to stay. It's going to keep on, and it's not going to die.
Oh, losing your line there a bit, Linda, but we've got the gist of it. Thank you so much for giving us all this time and for sharing your memories of Bob Wall, who passed away this week. Linda Bustamante Padron, a teacher, writer, martial artist who was friends with Bob Wall. And if you haven't watched Enter the Dragon, do give it a go. It's a brilliant film. It is so intense. It is of an era, but Bruce Lee is just magnetic as in his performance. The fight scenes are incredible. And now, hearing from Linda that actually quite a lot of the contact in those fight scenes was real, I think I might be able to watch them with a different sense of pain involved for some of the actors on them. Coming up next, it's our Sunday supplement, and we're talking about licorice.
Across the UK, on DAB, online and on your smart speaker. This is Times Radio.